Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm just getting everyone set up. So we will go ahead and get started. So for those of you who may not know me, I'm Tiffany Swedensky. Just to give you a little introduction about my background and where I came from. So I started working in legal marketing about 10 years ago, so in 2015. I actually started working for Ben Glass in Great Legal Marketing back in 2015. I was brought on as their digital marketer. And at the time, my primary roles were handling their landing pages, marketing automations, and a little bit of their search engine optimization, along with their SEO company, of course. And so I worked there as their digital marketing specialist for a while, and then worked as the marketing director for Ben Glass Law for a few years. I was also the marketing director at Great Legal Marketing for a few years. And then in 2021, I left and started my own company, Sharp Cookie. And that's where I am now, what I'm doing now. I'm a fractional CMO. So currently, I work with 6 law firms throughout the US. All of them but one are personal injury firms. And I'm helping them manage their marketing departments. I act as their CMO. And as you can imagine, as you already know, referrals are a huge part of what we do to market a law firm. And so what I wanted to take you guys through today is the system that I built and set up for these attorneys and their law firms to help them develop better referral relationships. And this presentation, I'll take you through the whole thing from how to start building your list and organizing your list, all the way down to what kind of content that we're going to write to engage with our referral network. So I hope all you all have the next hour or so cleared off. I can talk endlessly about marketing. So just some housekeeping. If you have any questions, you can type them into the Q&A. And I'll probably periodically, when I need a break from talking, open up the Q&A and see if there are any questions that I can answer. And if you want to, we have chat enabled. And so there are a few of you in here. And if you want, just to show that you're not the only one, you can drop a line in chat, tell us how the weather is where you are, what you're working on today. And just double checking, I'm just making sure that should be enabled for everyone, I hope. But for the most part, this meeting, I'm going to be taking you through this presentation about what we're doing with referral marketing. And so let me just get that up and we'll go ahead and get started. I am sorry about like a little bit of a late start. Unfortunately, I have a camera, but the minutes before this meeting, I turned it on and it suddenly wasn't working. And so you guys are having to watch me through the webcam, but fortunately, we're mostly going to be looking at this presentation. Good grief, it's kind of hard to share and everything at the same time. So here we go. So essentially, my system, I'm calling Thought Leader OS because this program is dependent upon you helping create a content plan. Just so I can make sure everyone's seeing the presentation, can somebody drop a line into chat just to let me know that they're seeing this on their end, everything's looking good? Okay, great. Yay. So Thought Leader OS is what I'm calling it that because it does require whoever's running it to be a little bit of a thought leader. That means you're going to have to make content for your referral audience that gets views, that gets engagement, and that people respond to and make you want to refer cases to you, right? And so the thought leader could be anyone, and we'll get to that here in a little bit in the presentation. But the whole idea behind it is we want to create personalities at your law firm for people to follow and for people to look up to, admire, basically thought leadership in your law firm. And that is the fuel to the fire, so to speak, that makes your referral marketing actually potent and for people to want to engage in it. Because today, I mean, everyone in this room probably knows about ChatGPT. I don't have to explain in detail what it is, what it does. But ChatGPT is basically making it enabling everyone to mass produce content. If you go on social media, you go on LinkedIn, you go in the comments section on any blog, you go on a website, most of that content is written by ChatGPT. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing with using ChatGPT to synthesize content. But where it falls short is that a lot of it's content without that thought leadership element, without somebody behind, the scenes typing out and saying, "Hey, this is my actual opinion. This is my actual experience." And to bring that to the LLM, or maybe you're not using an LLM, maybe you're just writing, bring that level of personal experience and personal knowledge to your content to actually make it something that people want to engage with. So that's why I called it Thought Leader OS. But let me take you through the system here. I gotta get my slides set up. So step one, we want to identify your starter list. And essentially what this means is that you want to find the people that you already know to add to your referral list. And that could be the people on this list: friends, family, classmates, your employees, your former clients. This is the referral list that everyone has starting out with. And by and large, it's the list that gets overlooked the most, right? For most of the law firms I talk to who are interested in growing and building their referral network, they're really interested in how to get more names on the list and how to just grow the referral list, right? But they're kind of neglecting the people that are already there. We're talking about growing a referral list, but we have people on the referral list who aren't getting newsletters from us, who aren't getting emails from us, who aren't engaging with us. And this core group is what everyone starts with. And your friends, your family, former classmates, your employees, your former clients are all positioned and capable of referring you cases. And it's important to identify them and start nurturing them and make them a part of your content plan. And don't overlook them. Don't be reaching for the new or stepping over the old to reach for the new. But you definitely do want to reach for the new. So once you've kind of identified who your starter list is, just who those core group of people are, maybe they exist in your email, maybe they're following you on social media, get their emails together, and that's your starter list. But you also want to look to who can refer you cases in the future. And a lot of you, I know a lot of names who are here at this webinar. I'm familiar with a lot of you. So I know you're working for firms who are interested in growing their referral network to other professionals. And I mean, that's obviously a part of who we want to add to our referral marketing list, no doubt. And those are people inside your profession, so other attorneys, but maybe who aren't taking the types of cases you're wanting to attract. Or there are people outside of your profession, but they're local business owners, or they come in contact with people who could be your clients. And you want to identify those core groups. And it depends on your marketing goals, right? I talk to a lot of law firms and attorneys who want to get more referrals from chiropractors, from, if you're a personal injury attorney, maybe you're hoping to get referrals from somebody who runs a general litigation practice but doesn't do personal injury, or you want to work with a Social Security disability attorney to help them with personal injury cases. Those are obvious, but like you also want to look to the local business owners who maybe aren't coming in contact with your regular audience, but who could still refer you cases, and they themselves have big networks of their own. My personal example is actually my son's karate teacher, or not my son, my daughter's former karate teacher. My daughter's 15 now, but when she was, early elementary school, she went to a karate class in Gainesville, Virginia. And the owner, and I'll say his name, I don't think it matters. The owner's name was Tim Rook. And I followed Tim on Facebook, or he friended me shortly after my daughter joined his gym. And my daughter hated karate, so she was only there for like a total of 3 months, 4 months, something like that, before she was like, "Mom, please don't make me go back." And so I didn't send her back, but Tim remained my friend on Facebook. And he's been my friend on Facebook for years. When I log into Facebook, I see him posting, because he posts regularly. And he posts about his life, his business, development, or milestones, his thoughts, his feelings, videos, whatever. It's just his personal profile that he treats very much like a personal profile. But if you look at his friends list, he has thousands of friends because he's done this for years. He's friended everyone or every parent whose kid has joined their gym and has built this like social media following just from that. And when these parents have another kid, want to send them to karate, they'll think of him. Or when they're talking to another parent who's thinking about sending their kid to karate, they're going to recommend him. And it's just based on the simple local business owner practice or this referral practice that he developed. And by the way, you could too, if you wanted to. Whenever you sign a potential client, you can go and friend them on Facebook. Seems a little bit too close to comfort, kind of depending on how you handle your Facebook page. But a lot of business owners are doing that. And it's a surefire way to make sure that you're going to show up in their social media feeds from now to the end of time, and they'll definitely never forget your name, right? But it's important to not overlook, the non-attorney local business owner referral relationships because they themselves can have such a vast network. And the last group is our influencers who talk to your audience. And you see in the screenshot up here, I would send you to his page so you can watch some of his videos, but we have a lot to cover. But this guy's name is Dylan, and I'm very proud to say I started following him back when he only had like 400 or so followers, and now he's got 76,000. I'll have to double check. Yeah, that's it. So Dylan has made a regular videos for well, let me back up. My cat's distracting me by like patting out my door. I might have to kick him out. I don't know why this happens to me during meetings. But Dylan is a realtor, right? And he's from Northern Virginia and the DMV, which is why I started following him. And Dylan posts basically TikTok videos and reels regularly each day. Not all of them are about houses or realty. And in fact, most of them are just like interesting information about Northern Virginia. He'll tell you urban legends from Northern Virginia. I learned that at one point in time, if you're familiar with the area, in Haymarket, they were planning on opening a Disney World in Haymarket, basically here near Northern Virginia and Fairfax. And they were trying to do that in the 90s, and then the plan fell through, and I'm grateful because could you imagine the traffic? It would just be absolutely horrendous, right? But he shares stories like that about Northern Virginia and the DMV. He's a realtor here in the DMV, and now he's got 76,000 followers with, content that's pretty simple for him to make. And if they follow him and they see him in their feed on the regular, then most likely they're going to reach out to him when they're considering buying a home. And so it's not just about you building your social media influence, which that's certainly part of it. That's something you definitely should do, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But also like identifying those influencers who have a big network like this, who could become prime referral sources for you, either because they recommend you, or maybe you collaborate with them on content or something else. And so this is the people who could potentially be on your list, and you could grow your referral list that way. Now, when people ask me, I get asked a lot, it's like, what kind of referral system can we build? And when I hear the word system, I typically think of like a machine. I think of a CRM, something that's automated, something with drips, something that sends out notifications with custom fields. But, in my experience, like building out a CRM specifically for a referral system, you can certainly do it. But the issue becomes then everyone who is participating in referral marketing has to use that CRM. They'd have to be able to log in to view contacts. They'd have to check their emails for certain notification, and just generally like log in and use a CRM. And I've worked with so many small law firms over the years, either worked directly with them or consulted with them. And just from personal experience, I can tell you, usually there's one or two people in the office who know how to use the CRM. And then everyone else is just like, I have not one single clue. And, there's a technology information gap there, which is unfortunate. And I would recommend, if you can, training your team on how to use these systems, right? But it's a tall order. It's a tall order to train receptionists, intake specialists, case managers, paralegals, and have them using a CRM on the level that you need them to. And so if it isn't obvious by my slide, what I generally recommend for law firms is to build a spreadsheet. And this is a very simple spreadsheet. It's a part of a referral contact tracker marketing calculator that I built. And right now there's no data in it, but you can see like we're tracking the date they were created, name, company name, partner name, children, profession, favorite things like that that would help you when you need to make personal contact with a person, help make that interaction more personalized. Basically, if you know their spouse's name, you could look it up in the spreadsheet and add that to your communication to them and personalize it a little bit. So the extra information helps, and you can just put it in a spreadsheet instead of building out all these custom fields in your CRM. And then, in the spreadsheet, column B is just simple conditional formatting. If it's been more than 6 months since we've last contacted them, we update, or we know we need to reach out to them with something. And we know we need to do some kind of outreach, and that could be one-on-one. It could be something automated or something we send to the entire list automatically. But basically, that's what we're trying to keep track of and making sure that no relationship goes too long without basically receiving a marketing touch, right? And so a spreadsheet is easy. A spreadsheet, everyone can have a link and update it as they need to. They can add information, they can remove information, and you don't have to be the CRM expert in your firm to make all of this happen. So make a spreadsheet. And you can literally copy this one that I put up here. It's so easy. So talked about a little bit about your list, and let me keep track of my time here. We talked about who you're going to start with, who you're going to build from there, and I'll get to how to grow that list and the offers that we would use a little bit later in this presentation. But for now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of a new system I'm building for this. Bear with me, this one's new. So one thing I'm always trying to teach people is like this cost benefit of the type of content we use. And I made this little chart, or my team made this chart to go over with you. But generally, social media is probably the cheapest thing that we could do in marketing. It doesn't take too much time. If you're making a video or an image, yes, but it's also just less demanding than probably other marketing activities that we could do, certainly the other ones on this list, right? And so the next one is email. If you have a CRM, emails are pretty cheap and easy to set up. Usually CRMs cost money. But generally it's a little bit more expensive, but not quite as expensive as social media. And then you have print. And print is where it starts getting really expensive, and then from there, gifts. It can be really expensive to send out mass gifts, right? But then you see the other arrow here. And generally, like there's always a correlation between how much something costs and how impactful it is. And so generally, the higher cost items are more impactful. And particularly when you get to print and gifts, right? I have a stack of newsletters over here from a law firm that I need to throw out because I read them, but I haven't because I know these people, and there's something kind of evil or sinister about throwing their newsletter in the trash. So they end up stacking up next to my desk because I'm nice. But that's kind of how people handle print marketing sometimes. If it's valuable to them, it'll hang around. Magnets can stick, a magnet with an event calendar can stick on somebody's fridge and live there for a year. Or like a recipe calendar, or, little plants. Like I've seen law firms send out swag that's just like little succulents in pots that can stick to a magnet on a fridge. I'll need to reach out to that firm actually. That was such a cute idea. But essentially, like the things that are physical, live longer. A social media post, somebody might see it in their feed and read it and might spend 30 seconds with it and then scroll up, and then effectively that post is gone. I mean, it still exists, but that person is never going to see it again, most likely. I mean, there are exceptions. Maybe the post goes viral and everyone's commenting on it, but that's not the norm. Social media posts, they see it once, move on. Email, it's a little stickier, but how do emails work? You receive an email, you read it, you either archive it or delete it, and then that email is done, which is kind of a shame because a lot of people write some really good emails and email newsletters. And so, you can recycle that content, right? You can save your email newsletter, hold on to it, reuse it in a year, maybe with a different subject line. But for the most part, like with emails, like they're seen and then they're gone, and you have to wait to use that content again. That email doesn't exist anywhere. And so, that's the downside. So the more expensive we get with what we're spending, the more impactful that particular marketing item is going to be. And so this next one is where we get into some new stuff, right? So basically, I wanted a way to quantify referral marketing because we know referral marketing drives high value cases. I mean, if you need to be convinced that referral marketing gets you higher value cases on average than digital, PPC, Facebook, like email me later or argue with me in chat. I don't, but I think for the most part, if you're here, you understand that referrals are super impactful. And so, what we want to do is track like what we're doing and monitor what we're doing to get those referrals, but we can't always tie it to ROI. Somebody might be a referral source for a year before they actually send us a case, and then the case is just through the roof amazing. Or you have one person who sends cases regularly, but tracking down to the ROI for these things, when we already know these are high value cases, when we already know we should be getting more word of mouth referrals, for me, it's better to track the activity than it is to track the actual outcome when we're as certain as we are that it's a beneficial activity. So what I did here is I took one of my law firms that's doing a lot. They're doing a lot of extra referral marketing. And I gave them a score of 100. And from there, I basically worked backwards to determine like how impactful these activities are. And for social media, for the reasons I stated earlier, less impactful. Somebody will see it 5 minutes, scroll up, and then it's gone. Emails are pretty common, and a lot of our inboxes are super crowded with emails. Emails are great, not to diminish that, but they're not as valuable as something physically printed on your desk or in front of your potential client. Sorry, guys. Second thing that I put on here is cards, and that's going to be thank you cards, birthday cards, any other type of like simple holiday card or something like that. That's impactful, but not as impactful as a monthly newsletter or a gift. And then some of these others is a little more obvious why they have a high score. Giveaways, gifts, one-on-one lunches, high impact activities, training and workshops. If you're like leading a CLE or you're doing a workshop in somebody's office, that's super impactful. Charity, particularly if it's a charity program that you're able to reach a ton of people, again, super impactful. And then the last one is events. And I'll define what that is a little bit more specifically because you may be wondering like how it's different than a workshop or a lunch. But an event, I'm thinking of client dinners. And I've heard of a few firms doing this. Scott Vicknair does one, or they do a client advisory board dinner twice a year. And then, I can't remember the law firm name, but they're really big and I should remember their name. But they're in Arizona and they're a huge firm, husband and wife legal team. I remember all that, but can't remember their brand. They also, and don't tell them I said that, they also do client advisory board dinners and swear by it. They host these dinners at a restaurant, they pay for everything, they invite their entire client list, they bring, and this is what Scott Vicknair does as well. We bring games, we bring swag for them to take home, and then generally like we bring all of our team too and have like a little networking one-on-one FaceTime with our clients. And every time we do a client advisory board dinner next month or over the next 3 months, we see a surge in former client referrals. And so we just keep doing it because the ROI for what we pay for the dinner is immediately made up for, like more so, like over 100% ROI by the cases we get. And I should have the actual number for you guys. But even like for something like that, 3 cases or 2 cases, like if you spend, $1,000, $2,000 on dinner plus, really you only need, depending on what type of cases you take, just one referral from that group. And we're getting 5 or 6 a month from that group. So we use these impact multipliers, and I'll make a little bit more sense on the next slide why I wanted to bring those in. But essentially, we want to give ourselves a benchmark for the kind of activities that we're doing within the marketing department to meet. And so the impact multipliers help us quantify that. And so this is an example that I put together in my referral marketing planner spreadsheet. This is what I use basically to make sure that the law firm is doing enough to generate referrals, right? And so now this is not a spreadsheet, so I can't interact with it, but we put the type of content that we're sending out in a little more detail, select the channel that it's attached to, how often we're doing it, and what period we're doing it. Because some of these we do quarterly, some of these we do monthly, weekly. And it takes these, runs it through our impact multiplier formula, and determines like how much monthly impact we have. And since some of these happen yearly, it's averaged over 12 months. And so these are the activities that we're doing at one firm that gets us a monthly impact score of 66. And the members of my mastermind group get this spreadsheet, get this calculator, and I'll bring us back one slide. So if you look at this and you disagree with it, is what I told them. Like if you say to yourself, it's like, well, this should be a few more points, this should be a few less points, that's fine. This is what I arrived at looking at my firms and what they're doing. But if you get access to this calculator, you can go through and adjust these and kind of customize it to get a score that you feel is more fair here. But generally, like this is what we're doing over the course of a year, sometimes multiple times a year, to generate more referrals. Case result postcard. I think a lot of you in here might be familiar with what that is, but it's essentially a postcard that features a major case result the firm got in that last quarter. And we take that postcard, it's stylized and designed, and we send it to all of our attorney referral sources and advertise it, recent case win. And if it was a referred case, then we say like referral fees paid and list the referral fees paid to that attorney. You might not be able to do that in your state. In this state we could, so we did. And then we send out an email newsletter specifically to our attorney referral list. We do that once a month. We send out an email newsletter to current and former clients. We do that once a week. We sent a print newsletter for attorneys. We highlight team members on social media. We have 2 charity programs, High Seas and ABCs and Project Backpack. And then we also have a print newsletter for medical clinics. So to give you more context on that, this firm created basically an opt-in letter. We had each medical clinic specifically opt in to this to do this. And that might be required in your state, maybe it's not. But we literally got that opt-in letter and had somebody call medical offices that handled, like primary care offices and said, hey, we're Scott Fickner Law. We're putting together a newsletter for medical clinics about personal injury law to help you guys navigate those cases and give you some need to know information if you're dealing with clients who've been injured in a car accident. If you're interested in receiving this newsletter, just let me know. I'll send you this opt-in letter, you sign it, and you'll start getting that newsletter. And we did that last year, just made those phone calls. It was one person, they did it within like a week or 2 weeks, and nearly every place we called opted in. They signed and returned the letter, and we started sending them our monthly print newsletter for medical clinics. And all of these things combined give us an impact score of 66.55, which exceeds the goal that I put here of 55. So for me, 55 is the goal. This is quite a lot that we're doing for this firm, but this firm is really investing in community marketing and referral marketing. And honestly, some of this may not be tenable if your budget is smaller. And so I made the calculator so people could come in here and basically customize their marketing plan based on like what's in their bandwidth to do. So if you want to do less print marketing and more social media marketing, more email marketing, come in here and fill this out and you'll be able to get what your impact score is currently. Sorry. I should quit apologizing for needing to take a drink because I've been talking sustained for like 30 minutes, but that's the kind of person I am. Okay, so we talked a little bit about tracking referrals. And by the way, like we do this, like we'll do the tracking referrals as an entire department, and then we'll also track referral activity down to individuals. So not all firms are like this, where they encourage their associates and their other attorneys to engage in referral marketing. But some firms do. And so what I created was a spreadsheet very similar to the one that you saw before, which basically asks the attorney or whoever you're asking to track to log their activities. And I might have put a screenshot in later, so maybe we'll see it. But I put in, I don't know, I know this guy said this phrase. I know he said this, but I don't know if he's the origin of this phrase or if he's just repeating something popular that we all know. But people don't follow brands, they follow people. Your personal brand is ultimately what's going to tee up doing business. So Brad Lay, CEO of Lightspeed VT, I guess said that on a podcast. But that's the common phrase that we repeat in marketing today because it's true. People don't follow brands. Maybe you do, maybe you follow Wendy's on Twitter, but even when you look at like Wendy's or a lot of the brands on X, I guess, on those sites, they have personality. So it's not just Wendy's and here's our newest special on Square Burgers, right? It's engaging, it's entertaining, and it is more of an individual, it reads more like an individual account than it does a company account. And so that's why when you look at LinkedIn, Facebook, I guess Instagram to some degree, you know, the pages that are the company pages usually don't get as much traction as the pages that are individual pages. And it's actually kind of frustrating if you're a marketer trying to build up the presence of a company page on LinkedIn. It's like nobody looks at it, nobody engages with it. You have to make the owner repost the post from that you posted so it'll actually get engagement. But it follows with what we kind of already know about people and what we probably already know about ourselves, which is that, you know, we don't really connect with brands in that way. We do connect with people. You know, I don't want to be an Apple person, but you know, I will admire Steve Jobs. I don't actually admire Steve Jobs, so I realized that was a bad example. Okay, so who are the stars at your firm? And so I feel like marketers are kind of shocked to hear me say, like, you could be the star at your law firm. But they absolutely could. You know, I've been marketing for a long time and I have seen many marketing directors become kind of the unofficial stars of the law firm because they're the ones posting content on their LinkedIn page, they're writing the newsletter. Grace Clark is a marketer in my mastermind group, and she works for Frank Kearney out here in DC. And if you visit their website and if you can sign up for their newsletter, she sends it every week. That newsletter is 100% about Grace. It is not about FAQs of personal injury law. It's not, here's what you need to know about when Prince died and he lost his estate case here. You know, it's nothing like that. It's all what Grace did last week, what books Grace is reading. And she actually presented a little bit at the seminar that I put on for marketers back in June. And quantifiably showed that since she took over their e-newsletter and made it about Grace, open rates have gone up, click rates have gone up, and referrals have gone up. And so I'm telling marketers now, as often as I can, like, put yourself out there And maybe you're not brave enough to make the email newsletter all about you, and maybe your law firm doesn't want that. So always ask, probably doesn't hurt. But you can talk about and market your business through your personal profile at the very least on LinkedIn. And hopefully you're enthusiastic about that because you are a marketer and you are supporting your business. So I'll leave it at that. But building your own personal brand as a marketer is super, super important for a number of different reasons. But it can certainly help not just like your future, but what you are doing now in the marketing at your firm. But the other people on this list, I'm a marketer, so I talked a lot about the second bullet point, but the other people on this list are important too. All of them have potential to be the star of the marketing. And a lot of times it's the law firm owner, right? And I mean, that makes the most sense because they are by default the star of the marketing. And so their personal profiles on Facebook, on LinkedIn, high value. When emails come directly from them and their name, high value. Generally, people look up to the owner. They're the wise man at the top of the mountain. And so by default, they're the ones who are going to be featured in most of the marketing. Take another drink, guys. And so putting them on a pedestal is pretty much a part of a marketer's job. And that's what I'm telling a lot of marketers. It's like your job is to make them look good. It's not necessarily, I mean, it is about advancing the brand, but it's also building up this character that people actually want to engage with. Because just like people don't follow brands, people don't refer to brands, they refer to people. It's important to keep in mind. So I did actually include a screenshot in here, but if you're designating many stars in your marketing, right? You're the law firm owner, the associates, you have maybe a referral manager or a client happiness manager. They're all participating in referral marketing, but generally it's hard to track kind of what they're doing, right? And so part of this spreadsheet right here is pretty much a calculator to determine their impact based on their activities. And so I like to quantify things because it gives us this benchmark, this goalpost to hit. And so we can tell everyone who's required to participate in referral marketing, hey, your impact goal is 50. So you have to do enough referral marketing each month or over the course of the year to add up to an average of 50 each month. And that could be one-on-one lunches, that could be social media posts on their personal profile, that could be email newsletters. Maybe they have a personal email newsletter list, which is actually becoming a little bit more common. Maybe they're sending out thank you cards to people who have referred us cases or gifts for their colleague's birthday. These things all accumulate and build and help you generate more referrals. And so if you're tracking it firm-wide, the things that we're doing as a firm, emails, print newsletters, social media stuff, we want to track that. But also, referral marketing is very individualized. And you probably also want to track what they're doing at an individual level. I hope you guys are enjoying so far. Get so amped up talking about these things, I get a little bit ahead of myself. So I want to introduce you guys to the idea of social media pipelines, the social media influencer pipeline. And this is basically the pipeline most social media influencers follow to build their own list and to get sales. Because classically, hold on, let me check my time. Classically, social media, I think a lot of law firms think of it as extra, right? Like we don't have to do that. And I've heard a lot of people say like, okay, Facebook can just wipe your follower list tomorrow and you don't own it, you're just renting it. And so it's more important to build your list than it is to build your social media following, which I agree with wholeheartedly, actually. It is more important to build your list than it is to build a social media following. But I think what we're missing here is that social media, the goal isn't just to build social media followers. It's to take your social media followers, as many as you can, from social media to your list. And in a way, like we're widening our funnel to include social media as one of the entry, or yeah, as one of the entry points. And so I'll actually tell you the story. So and I'm somewhat bragging, but I actually lost a lot of weight recently. And it started because about a year, 2 years ago, year and a half, somewhere in there, I started following a gal on Instagram called Beth Walker. And Beth Walker specifically talks to women in my age demographic about weight loss and losing weight. I love her. She's very realistic, very in your face. I check her out if you're in my demographic. You may enjoy her too. But without a doubt, like as I was following her and tracking my buyer's journey, I was very aware that I was following a pipeline that she very intentionally set up and set up pretty well. And a lot of fitness and wellness and nutrition coaches use the same pipeline. You start with just trying to make content that gets as many views as possible. And that's not hard to do, honestly, if you're into weight loss or nutrition or fitness. Like pretty much everyone wants to lose weight. So that content is relevant to everyone. But you make videos that get as many views as you can. And hopefully your target audience will engage with it. I say hopefully, it depends on how you structure your content and set it up. Most social media influencers are going for maximum engagement. And then they take you from engagement to follow, from follow to their offer. And that offer might be free ebook, spreadsheet, guide, checklist, whatever. And then they move you, once you get their offer, usually they have links in bios, or they'll create a post that, just directly tells people like DM me and I'll send this to you. But they're not actually sending it to you. They're sending you a link where you can fill out, a form on a landing page. But once you accept the offer, you're moved from social media to their marketing list. And once they have your email, they can retarget you with ads, they can send you emails, that's pretty much it. But they can engage with you on a way that they couldn't previously just by you being their follower. And then eventually you buy from them. And that's exactly what happened to me. I followed Beth for a while, engaged with some of her content. I don't think I actually downloaded a free offer from her, but I probably would have. I got on her list though, for sure. And then she sold me into a nutrition and coaching program. Very happy to say it's gone well. And that's the pipeline that nearly every social media influencer tries to get you to follow. There's one, and some of them get kind of weird, but well, I need to save time. I don't want to go off on a tangent. So that's the social media pipeline. That's the funnel from getting people from social media onto your list. And so why I'm talking about building your referral network now. So a lot of firms will set up a referral network of some kind. And what I mean by that is they'll set up a system to where, hey, we're going to reach out to all the estate planning attorneys and say, hey, if you get any personal injury cases, refer them to us and we'll refer our cases to you. But logically, like we can probably only realistically refer our estate cases to one firm, maybe two. And if you're not actively marketing for estate cases, you're probably not incidentally getting those calls, or at least not very often. So it's not like you have a huge volume of estate cases to refer. Now, you might take the route where you start investing in marketing to attract a case outside of your practice area, but that sounds disastrous to me, and hopefully it sounds disastrous to you. You really only want to invest in the marketing that's going to generate the leads that you want, right? And so that network for me kind of falls flat, because it's not something you can publicly promote. If an estate attorney accepted your offer and they see your ad to get other estate attorneys to join your offer later and you haven't referred them a case in 6 months, they're never going to refer you a case, right? And then some of these, like, they're hard to join. And I love letters, like filling out and returning letters, very smooth, very simple. But I've seen them get a little out of control. Instead of just like name, address, email, minimal information, they're asking this attorney to fill out like a form. And that's too much. And generally, as a rule in marketing, the more information you ask, the lower your opt-in rate is going to be. And the more difficult it is to join something, the less likely they're just able to join. And then these other things, they must be easy to fulfill, it must be updated weekly. And I'm talking about like your offer, right? Like the offer that you're giving people, that's more than just join our network. That's really what you need to get more people onto your referral list. What's your offer? And so, what is your offer? So, I'm just giving you some ideas here. These are things that have worked for other firms and you can do them too, right? So, number one, podcast. And I have a podcast. I'm a little biased, but podcasts are great. And particularly if you can have guests on your podcast where you don't have to create new content, you can just interview somebody. Those are deceptively simple to do. And even if it's not super simple, there are companies that will handle everything except the actual recording. You know, as long as you send them a video once a week, once a month, they'll cut the podcast, distribute it, and put it on all the networks, and everyone will see it. And it's awesome. And you can even make a podcast that's like partially paid, you know, just throwing it out there. That's definitely a possibility. But like something like, you know, reaching out to a referral source and saying like, hey, I thought this would be valuable to you, you know, come join my podcast or watch my podcast. Maybe you can invite them as a guest, and that makes a huge impression on people. And well, and I'll get into something else here in a second, but inviting them as a guest, they'll never forget you, they'll love you, and they will refer cases to you, basically. You're putting them on a spotlight, and you're enhancing their image and also giving them more marketing material for themselves. So I love podcasts, super great idea. You can also do a custom newsletter, which I already talked about a little bit earlier. A VIP program. A VIP program is meant for clients primarily, so not for the attorneys on your list, but like a VIP program aimed at former clients where you do monthly giveaways, where you have some benefits that are easy to fulfill. That's always an easy win. That's easy to set up, and it's an easy win for most law firms. Something else that you could do, goodness, is create a Substack. And a Substack is actually what I use. And in fact, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to ask you to go to Substack and subscribe. But think of it like an old school WordPress blog, but each time you post a blog, it sends an email newsletter. And it's really handy, like a CRM website combo in one. They're easy to set up, and you can make it to where you're only talking to other attorneys and you're asking other attorneys to subscribe. And whenever you post something new, they'll see it as an article and they'll see it as an email newsletter. And I love it for myself personally. It's a great way for me to keep in touch with my list. I'm publishing podcasts on there, I'm putting videos on there. So that's something that a lot of attorneys could also do, except make their Substack about whatever they want it to be. And I could give you some ideas, but like if you have a personal interest or just have like a personal angle that you can use to talk to these attorneys, you can leverage that. It doesn't have to be about how to build a business or marketing or the practice of law. It could be, but it could just be something that's interesting enough that other attorneys will want to follow you for. A resource hub, I've seen it built a couple times. That's basically where we're putting a bunch of free resources on a site and we're directing people there and saying, hey, go download stuff from here. It's educational, and it typically works pretty well. And then a course, education or training, teaching a CLE, hosting a workshop, hosting a webinar. Those are all great offers that you can give your referral list. That's not, I'll refer cases to you if you refer cases to me. And it actually gives them a reason to want to follow. Why should somebody want to follow you? So this is another thing that I talked about a lot at the marketing seminar in June. Because a lot of people I talk to have trouble creating their own content for their referral newsletter or for their personal LinkedIn or social media. And they don't know quite what they should do. And for me, it's simple: stories. You go on social media, in your email newsletter, on your personal blog, whatever you have set up, and you just tell stories. That's what all the social media influencers do. That's what happens on podcasts. I listen to a podcast called it's like Unexplained Mysteries or something like that. It just talks about like funny things in history. Those are all stories. That's all they are. And I listen to it like every time they release a new episode. So that's the kind of content that you're creating. And take a picture of this. I might send this slide out a little bit later. I don't know for sure, but if I'm not sure, so take a picture. But these are all things that you could tell or talk about on social media. Anecdotes or lessons you learned in school, what you learned after an experience, whatever the experience was. You know, what I learned after visiting Disneyland, what I learned after having a toenail removed by a dermatologist. That didn't happen to me, but thinking about it. Stories you've heard on podcasts. Like I mentioned that I listened to an Unexplained Mysteries podcast, and a few times I've used the stories I've heard on there and rehash them on social media, but from my own angle. It's like, this is what this story taught me about blah, 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 blah. What you learned from reading, things you wish you knew when, stories of personal struggles, what you have strong opinions about. All of these are stories that you can tell on social media. And all of them are going to get you more engagement than FAQs or blogs. So I set up this decision tree, and I'm going to tell you the reason why I set this up. And that's because I see when we're doing a lot of referral marketing or we're posting on social media, a lot of times people default to FAQs. You know, what you should know about estate planning, what you should know about after a car accident, FAQ information. But that content really doesn't work well for somebody not looking for that kind of information, right? And so in this, decision tree, is this content for everyone? Yes. Meaning, is it not for a niche audience? Will they search for this content? Are they going to Google to answer a specific question? Yes. Then you should write evergreen or blog FAQ content, because that's what people are searching for on Google. And now these days they're getting it from ChatGPT. But classically, that's what we were using FAQ content for. But like, what if they're not searching for that content? If somebody's casually scrolling social media and they see a top 5 things you should know about car accidents, that might not be immediately interesting to them. And it's really easy to keep scrolling. And so, no, they're not searching for that content. They want something different. They want infotainment. Infotainment, yeah, we spelled that right. I won't explain too much what infotainment means, but it's educational. Look at what any YouTuber does. Any YouTuber that sits and tells you a story about history or tries to explain how GBTs work, they're creating infotainment. It's educational, but it's very entertaining with lots of cuts. And then over here, is this content for everyone? No, it's for a niche audience. Will they find or receive it? And that question just basically means find more in a passive sense. So the example I think of is using ads on niche websites. So Ben Glasslaw advertises on White Coat. I don't work with Ben Glasslaw, I just know this about him. They advertise on a niche website called White Coat Investor. And they put ads on that site. And who visits that site are doctors who are interested in financial planning. And they put an ad on that website for their ERISA practice because they're targeting doctors who may be filing ERISA claims. Those are high value cases. And so that niche audience, doctors, will casually find or stumble upon Ben Glaslaw's ad. And that ad is designed to deepen the relationship. You want to take them off of the niche website that they're on, or the niche Reddit board that they're on, or LinkedIn, and send them to your offer. You want to deepen the relationship. And then, like, if it's a niche audience and they're receiving it, like in an email newsletter, we're trying to get them to engage. Engagement is the big thing that we're trying to get from our marketing list. And that's on social media, and that's by email. You want people to receive something from you and not just consume it, you want them to love it. You want them to participate. And for me, like the best example of this are 90s, early 2000s era radio DJs. Because a radio station could just play at you songs all day long. But if you listen to radio back in the day, what they were doing is engaging with their audiences, getting them to call in for contests, giveaways, and just any other reason they could get people to call in to get engagement, to get real live people on the air, and to get people to be passionate fans of that radio station. And we need to do that too. People shouldn't just receive our our newsletter and read it, and there should be some avenue for them to react, respond, and that will actually help them also deepen the relationship and get them invested in your content. All right. Okay. So that is essentially what I had for you guys today. I actually covered this topic in our Sharp Marketing Mastermind yesterday, and they didn't see the presentation because it wasn't actually ready yet, but I went through and took them through a tour of that spreadsheet that I had with all the calculators and the content plans and all that good stuff. If you want that spreadsheet, and also you want to join me and the other marketers each month in our mastermind calls, visit sharpmarketer.org, and that'll take you to where you can sign up for the group, and they'll be able to see all of the content that we have available on Substack, including paid including all the paid content, including the recordings that we've done previously, and all of the guides and information that we've created for the mastermind group. And if you don't want to join, please subscribe to the Substack. We publish free articles each week. You can scan that QR code and be able to sign up and subscribe to the Substack. And also you can preview Substack. It's actually a really neat platform. But I guess for now, that's all I had for you guys. But if you had any questions, oh, the little mastermind group. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in there. I guess I should stop sharing. I don't see any questions. You guys don't have too many. Otherwise, if you have any questions about me, or you'd like to schedule a time to talk with me more, there's my email, tiffany@sharpcookiedev.com. I love talking about marketing. I do it all the time, and be happy to talk with you and your firm about what's going on. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. And for those of you, I'll see you again. Some of you, I hope I'll see you again. And thanks again.